How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. So I've been reading this book, I guess it says last 2-3 weeks or something, this book series, and I have now read enough of it that I think I should be able to say a little bit. And uh, I have read, I think it was 6 books, the first 6 books, and I think the story in the anime covers the first 4 books, around about that, around about 2 books, no, rather about the first 4 books. And I read 2 additional books, and there are 4 more books in English, and then there are 3 more books in Japanese, and then there might be some additional content on the net. I think this started out as a net web novel. So I evidently haven't read the whole thing, but I have read enough that I have gotten a certain idea what kind of story it is. And well, it's obviously an isekai story, and the hero is summoned to this kingdom. And I guess the main difference compared to many of the similar isekai stories is that rather than becoming this very OP hero that runs around demolishing all his enemies, he primarily uses the skills and knowledge he has from home, and he comes from modern day Japan. So his skill set is that of a student from Japan who is studying to become a bureaucrat in the Japanese government. And as such, he has history, background in history, and various social sciences, and he also has quite interest in Machiavelli. There are several references to Machiavelli in his book, to Machiavelli the Prince, and the main character is very fond of Machiavelli. So what you have in this story is essentially the hero reforming the kingdom he ends up in. It says rebuilt, and he essentially restructures it, because he at the beginning is well, there are several things that lead up to this, but he is essentially made the king. The current king abdicates and hands the kingdom to this hero, and then declares that his daughter, the princess, will marry him. So he sort of has the entire authority of the kingdom behind him. Now, the world that he ends up in is somewhat similar to what one would expect from a fantasy story. It has demon invasion. So some of the countries in the northern part of the continent where the kingdom the hero finds himself in are occupied by this demon army that came from another dimension or something similar. And I don't think there are any active warfare going on. I think the demon armies and the human armies, or rather the humanoid armies, has more or less reached a stalemate. So there is not much invasion going on, but there's still this huge demon army and this huge area occupied by the demon army, with all the consequences that has for refugees from these areas, and so on. And the fear of the neighboring countries being invaded by this army. As for the setting, it's uh, fairly close to a Western fantasy style world. You have magic, you have kingdoms with aristocrats, kings and queens, and you have elves, you have dragons, you even have dragon riders, and uh, you have these demons, then, of course, various monsters, and um, what you would expect from a fantasy world with magic. And uh, it's quite close to a Western fantasy type of setting, but it's I would say it's closer to the type of world you often have in at least Japanese type fantasies, where you have ancient technology, and that is well, it's essentially science fiction like, so very high technology, and you have some kind of ancient civilization or something that existed before, and that left these artifacts that um, could essentially be found in a science fiction novel or something similar, a science fiction story. So very high tech, but these elements are more representative of the background of the world rather than the what you run into in most of the story. And as the title implies, rather than running around with a sword, the hero in this story focuses on essentially rebuilding the kingdom, and that happens on several fronts. On one part, it is you have the story that spans the first four books, and that also appears in the anime, where he well, essentially solves all the initial problems that the kingdom has, such as famine and poverty. There are various problems that have been caused by various economic factors and due to the demon invasion and so on. And he solves these problems, and then he consolidates his power. He gets rid of all the nobles that oppose him, and he essentially ends the conflict with a neighboring country. And at the end of the anime and the end of I think it was around the first book, he has come at a fairly stable point where he has achieved much of the initial goals that he has set himself. But at the same time, he has been reforming the country. He has tried to improve hygiene. He has tried to um, essentially import various improvements you have in our world and adapt them to the fantasy world. This includes both social structures and mechanisms such as reducing poverty and disease and so on, but also when it comes to technology, but and also culture. But as for technology, he has the, I guess you could say, limitation in that this is a world with magic, so that some of the weapon technologies and other technologies that have been created in our world are not directly adaptable in this fantasy world, but um, the general concepts can, in many cases, exist, even though they are adapted in a way that makes them work in this reality. And for example, there are no jet planes in this world, but there are wyverns and dragons and so on, which is somewhat of an equivalence. And you have essentially no firearms, and they would also be less efficient in this world because you can imbue things with magic, but I think it was the degree with which you can imbue something with magic is linear with the amount of mass, such that if you use essentially small arms, such as a pistol or something, it wouldn't be very powerful since the energy that would be had in the bullet would be so small that it could easily be deflected by a magic shield or something like that. So um, you can't simply take the technologies that exist in our world and adapt them to this world. And additionally, the main character was not studying science, but rather social sciences, so that he's only as familiar with physics and math and so on as someone who would have done that kind of study would be. He can't explain how to build complicated engines and so on. He also imports various cultural concepts, primarily from Japan, including food and also various things such as idols and so on. And um, I guess the main difference that this type of novel has compared to more typical fantasy novel that is not an isekai story is that uh, part of what makes this type of story interesting is to see how he manages to change the world and the consequence of the world being changed. So that's I think what makes this type of fiction quite enjoyable. And I have enjoyed the series so far quite a lot. The last novel I read was very entertaining. It was um, about the so-called Dragon Kingdom, where dragons exist. And I thought that story was kind of cute. And you have dragon riding in it also. So there's this kingdom that exists next to the Dragon Kingdom that essentially cooperates with the Dragon Kingdom, and in this way they become dragon knights by essentially having dragons to ride on. So so overall, I would say this is a very entertaining series. I enjoyed the anime, and I'm currently enjoying the book series, and I will likely continue to plow through the remaining books in English. And when I have read through them, I'll probably try to read the next books in Japanese in some way. So I'm sort of interested to see in which direction the story goes. The overall overarching storyline is most likely concerns the conflict with the Demon Kingdom, but we still haven't gotten much information about it. So we'll see how it goes. I guess one underlying theme is that the kingdom he is a king of will need to be much more powerful than it is now in order to be able to pose the demon invasion. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think the story as a whole is finished, so I don't know how long it will be, but I'll continue reading the books, and I hope we'll get another season or two of the story in anime format. And if you enjoy these kind of stories, enjoy the anime, I think I can recommend it. So, so yes, so that's my thoughts so far on the book How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom.